I just want to give Daniel Ricciardo and Logan Sargent a huge and massive shout out for the video idea. Because without them, let's be real, this idea wouldn't have popped into my mind. And what idea? Well, it's kind of obvious, no? Roasting every single Formula 1 driver? For some, there's going to be a lot more roast than others, so I'm going to try to compile it down as much as possible. And if you want to add your own roasts, I'll be very happy to see them in the comments. And whilst you're there, you might as well subscribe and like. Don't know why you wouldn't. Just do it. Come on, please. And just a quick disclaimer, every single driver is going to be violated to their core. When and if your driver does get violated, and if you as well do get a couple stabs in your chest like you're walking down through South London, don't go crying, because I warned you now. You, maybe, and every driver they're done. With that said, hope you enjoyed the video, and don't bitch about it. Now, I think it's quite obvious that we have to start off with Daniel Ricciardo, because he has fallen from grace harder than the Alpines this year. And they are slower than a toddler trying to crawl on 4 legs. Literally just a couple years back, Daniel Ricciardo was regarded as one of the best drivers in Formula 1, and that's a difficult task to do when you have Alonso, Vettel was there, Raikkonen, Hamilton, and then you had Ricciardo in the team of Red Bull's sloppy seconds. He is awful compared to an absolute, questionable driver.
Training? Why?
So far this season, he's been dominated harder than Albon dominated Logan Sargent last year. And honestly, Logan, that's fine. Albon's a good driver, Logan Sargent's a rookie. But Daniel Ricciardo, an 8-time race winner in Red Bull and McLaren, and, he's versing Yuki Tsunoda. Now, yes, Yuki is an alright driver, but he ain't no GOAT. He ain't that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
At the start of 2024, midway through 2023, Daniel Ricciardo also had hopes to returning to the main Red Bull driver team, but they were just hopes. And right now, Daniel Ricciardo should be hoping that his name doesn't get dragged through the mud and the ground any harder. Honestly, he can either retire and save his career, or carry on and get pummeled by Yuki and dropped for the second time in your career for very, very, very poor performance. You're going to be a bigger laughingstock than Mazepin. And Mazepin was, Mazepin. And now, speaking of Mazepin and drivers comparing skill-wise to Mazepin, Sargent, aren't you a name that pops up P20 nearly every race? Most people have a normal house or flat or apartment as their humble abode, but no, Logan Sargent's is P20 on every single timing sheet. He comes into the sport, decent hype around American driver, wow, going into Williams, cool. In the year or so that we've seen him in Formula 1, he's either in the wall, on the gravel, out of the car, rather than actually on the track racing his car like he's supposed to. Alex Albon in 2023 scored 27 points compared to a very, very measly one of Logan Sargent. And it wasn't even like an on-merit point. 2 people had to be disqualified. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, both gift wrapped to present, handed it to Logan Sargent, that being his singular point. And Logan Sargent came out of Texas being all hippity-happy. Wow, I scored a point in my home Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri, also currently a driver in his second year, arguably better than Lando this year, maybe matching him, maybe slightly worse. But where is Logan Sargent? Well, some races he isn't even starting the race, that's how bad he is. Honestly, career over, GG.
GG's, bro.
Kimi Antonelli? Yeah, we want you. You see, Lando is kind of a tough cookie because he's a good driver. Well, don't discredit that.
I did a thing!
On his day, could match Verstappen in equal machinery. Rosberg, what? But Piastri in his second year, maybe nearly similar pace to him already. And that's kind of frightening. And also, do you know what else is frightening? Me rewatching Sochi 2021. My bro has one chance to secure the big dub of his career. Get a race win. He could have done that. But no, he fumbles the bag. And since then, how many wins has he gotten? Oh, none. But Ricciardo, an equal machine in McLaren, yeah. Ricciardo, the big shitter in a McLaren, got more race wins than Lando Norris. Wow. If Lando Norris can't get a win, well, maybe switch career paths. Maybe look at teaching or, I don't know, NASCAR. And also, let's not forget that Oscar Piastri last year won a sprint race, winning a race yet again before Lando Norris in equal machinery. So that's ×2 Lando has been a shitter. Time to switch sports, maybe go golfing, because Formula 1 clearly isn't cutting it. When someone says the word keyboard warrior, backtalker, nerd.
Did you just call me a nerd?
Esteban Ocon realistically pops into my mind. Because before a boxing match, Esteban Ocon's the type of guy to talk the talk, so much smack about someone, get into the ring, and get absolutely knocked out with the first punch that connects to his jaw.
Here in this round, though.
He has been in more tangles and crashes with his own teammates than people playing the game Twister. And to have such a bad reputation with pretty much every single Formula 1, nobody likes him. Who really wants to go out and just talk? Nobody. If you can name a single driver that likes Esteban Ocon, honestly, I'll be surprised. Genuinely. Because throughout his whole career, none of his teammates have ever liked him. And not just his teammates, the other drivers. Remember the Verstappen incident? Yes, bro was really shaking in his boots when Verstappen approached him, and that just proves my point. And him also this year bigging up the Alpine, saying, don't worry, we got this, maybe next race we will get into Q2. Honestly, that doesn't help, because the Alpine is going to keep on getting slower, and eventually is going to be slow as a snail. And not turbo, because that guy was kind of rapid. I'm talking about just a regular garden snail. That's what the Alpine is, I'm sorry. In my opinion, a driver that should be in the top echelons of teams is a driver that could actually finish in the points well, and when the car is good, should be probably able to finish on podiums. Podiums! Now that is kind of unheard of to Sergio Perez. For the longest time, it seemed like Sergio Perez was kind of allergic to podiums. Now yes, he might have brought it back in the last couple of races, but to be finishing a race, what, 30 seconds behind Max Verstappen in equal machinery? Now, one, that shows how bad you are as a driver. Two, you probably will be replaced if you don't fix up, and it's Sergio Perez, so he won't fix up. Last year, he spent the whole year in P12 contemplating, will Ricciardo take my seat? What can I do about it? Instead of contemplating, actually work on your racing. Because, well, I guess that kind of not gonna happen anymore. Your seat's safe because Daniel Ricciardo is, he's turning into Mazepin. Last year, Red Bull didn't win the Constructors. Max Verstappen won the Constructors for Red Bull. Sergio Perez, what did he actually do? Nothing. He faked a championship battle at the start of the season, and that's all he really did. But besides that, irrelevant. This year has been pretty good, except for Australia, which I guess has not been good for him in the last couple years. Because on that track, yet again, he's seen the gravel more than he's seen actual tarmac. Being real, no one in Red Bull really likes him. Christian Horner wants to get rid of him, but Daniel Ricciardo isn't up to scraps. So I guess he's stuck in the Red Bull for the next, I don't know how long.
No! God, please, no! No!
Charles Leclerc has recently released a brand called Lec, and it's ice cream. Which I guess ice cream has to be ice cold, but ice cold is something that he isn't on track, because most of the time he's in the wall in major situations. Seems like every other race, Leclerc is in the wall by his own fault. Not even the races, practice, qualifying. Even when qualifying isn't on, when qualifying is over, somehow, Baku, he manages to stumble himself into the wall. He might be fast in quali, but is he fast in the races? Well, he has been beaten many times in recent times by a literal unemployed driver.
Welcome back to McDonald's.
He has no job. You're being beaten by someone who is jobless, who has just been booted out of Ferrari for being not good. If I was him, I'd reconsider my skill level and maybe get better. Because as Ferrari's golden boy Charles Leclerc is, currently, if there was a championship battle, Carlos Sainz would be more likely to win it than you. You're you, so yeah. It's also sad that your pole to win ratio is worse than Logan Sargent's finishing ratio on track, so yeah. There's many different, oh my god. There's many different honorable ways to get into Formula 1, stay in Formula 1. The most honorable one is just being fast, talented, good driver, able to score good points, podiums, wins on some occasions. But Lance Stroll is literally the opposite of all of those. Aston Martin not only in 2023 had the second most competitive car for certain races, Alonso bagged some solid decent podiums.
Oh my god!
But Lance Stroll, let's count how many he got.
None.
He got into Formula 1 by his daddy's cash, and he's only in Formula 1 because of his daddy's cash. It's what, his 7th, 8th year in Formula 1? Surely by now you should be good at the sport, should be able to turn wheels and make overtakes without crashing anyone out. But clearly, not much has changed. Dominated by Alonso in 2023. It's the same as like if you put Mike Tyson in a boxing ring against a child. Lance is never gonna win against anyone. And for Alonso to say that he sees Lance as a future world champion, honestly, he must have been drugged or drunk. Something must be wrong. Or he was paid to say that, because there's no way in his right mind he thinks, or anyone in the world thinks, that Lance Stroll is a truly, maybe one day gonna be a world champion.
No.
Maybe if he goes to go-karting and races against 6-year-olds, then he might win. But that's the only competition he's ever winning in any motorsport category, because he is awful. Stroll? Nah, more like stroll down to daddy's office and ask him for another contract for 10 years. That's me.
I would like to be a terrorist.
Boo.
Now, terrorism is a very, very bad thing, and anyone who even considers it should be locked up for life. For life, maybe even executed. So tell me, why isn't George Russell in prison or been executed? Because he's terrorized more drivers than, well, the worst terrorists in the world.
What?
Bottas, Carlos Sainz. They're only a couple of his victims, and himself, well, he's done a lot of crashes by himself as well. Usually in the grandstands, when you hear applause, it's either because Lando Norris has just taken P1 off of Verstappen in Silverstone, or it's George Russell in the wall near the end of a race because he's that bad and he can't overtake. He waited 3 years to get into Mercedes, at the time the best car by far on the grid. Once he got there, guess what? They were slower than Williams, and honestly, it's just Jover for Russell.
It's Jover.
George Russell was the type of guy to congratulate himself on his own move or overtake on someone, and that's really the only person who applauds him on his moves, unless he forces his race engineer to do it with a gun to his head, because no one has ever applauded George Russell a move. I don't know, George Russell just fits more of the horse racing style of life, or croquet, not Formula 1. I think it's about time to get Alonso out of the way, because flaws, his age, maybe he's getting a tiny bit old, but that doesn't mean he's getting bold, doesn't mean he's getting slow, doesn't mean he's losing anything. He's just, what's the word?
Perfect.
Realistically, the only reason why Alonso says that Lance Stroll is a good driver, because Lance Stroll has a gun to his head and he's forced to say it. That's the only reason, because he wants to get paid. I see no issues with Alonso. He's perfect. Now, Carlos Sainz faces a massive issue, like a huge issue, and that's being unemployed in Formula 1 as a driver, a very good driver. Not only did he cost Ferrari P2 in the Constructors' Championship in 2023, he also nearly bled out on the floor in Jeddah and had to major operation. But to say that he didn't bounce back, I'd be lying, because he won the next race. Wow, you won a race. But guess what? You're not in Ferrari anymore, and Charles Leclerc still is. So really, who's laughing now? There's very minimal actual good race seats available for you, so I'd get hurrying and choose one before someone else chooses another one and blah blah blah. Because so far, a career in a good race seat might be over faster than Nick de Vries was in AlphaTauri. So yeah, you're kind of in a sticky situation. Your father might be a 2-time rally champion, but Carlos Sainz, I'm sorry. With good drivers on the grid, you're never going to be a Formula 1 world champion. It's just not going to happen. There'd have to be a full grid of Logan Sargents, Nick de Vries's, who else is there? Latifi? Yeah, that would have to be the grid for you to actually win. Because, I'm sorry, but you're just not winning when there's better drivers on the grid. Give up. Open a restaurant. Open a scuba diving shop. You're not winning in Formula 1. A championship? Nah. Another driver that it's best we just get out the way, and that's Max Verstappen. He has the greatest overtake of all time. He has disrespected on Lewis Hamilton on multiple occasions. He's ended Albon's career at Red Bull, Gasly's career at Red Bull, Ricciardo's career at Red Bull, Fiat's career at Red Bull, Perez's basically career at Red Bull, Jeb's career at AlphaTauri, Toro Rosso. Let's be real, he's just fucked over the whole Red Bull family, and it will never recover. So good job there, I guess. But yet again, Verstappen's a perfect driver. There's nothing you can critique, but his personality is a tad bland. That's Max Verstappen, and that's Max Verstappen out. And now let's talk about Max Verstappen's best friend, his knight in shining armor, his lover, him. Yeah. We know these two and these two cars were absolute best of friends, but for Lewis Hamilton to keep on rambling on about the 2021 championship, it's just not on. Grow up. You're what? You're nearly 84 years old now. Grow up. That happened ages ago, and to get your redemption. Stop talking about the past, but you can't get your redemption because you're old. You're too shit to put the work. You're just mad. Listen, you scammed the championship in 08, and your championship got scammed in 2021. That's fair. It makes it even. Stop bitching and maybe put some work in and put the car in some decent points, because you can't do that now. It might be the car, but still, get gooder. The old Hamilton used to have some flair, some jokes, but now, thank you to the factory, thank you to the guys back at the factory, that's all I can hear. And it's manipulated, man. So if you think you're gonna win a championship in Ferrari, honestly, I have more faith in Alpine winning a race than Ferrari winning a championship, because when was the last time Ferrari won a championship? Valtteri Bottas peaked in Mercedes when he was bald, but now he has hair and somehow he's lost all of his skill. He's focusing more on his body, focusing more on the calendars rather than the racing itself. And honestly, if you want to get a seat, maybe an Audi, maybe that would be a good car, you have to start putting the work in, because currently it seems like you just don't care. And for Zhou Guanyu to be close-ish to you is also quite embarrassing, because Zhou Guanyu, let's be real, he's irrelevant, no one really cares about him, and the only thing that's wow, Zhou Guanyu, it was a Silverstone crash, and that's it. But let's be real, he wasn't all that back then, because in the time Hamilton managed to win 4 championships, he managed 10 wins, and that's it. Wow. Gonna keep it a $150. Oscar Piastri sometimes overcooks his tires. They're too hot, like your favorite Instagram model, and his tire wear isn't as good as Lando Norris's, but he's a, rookie, pretty much a rookie still. Can't really ask too much. Been kind of close to Lando this year. Maybe faster, maybe a bit slower. That's it. Can't really complain about Oscar Piastri. He's put in the work in that Daniel Ricciardo really couldn't in McLaren. So genuinely, no complaint about Oscar Piastri. He's as ice cold as Alonso, and that's honestly all there is to it. Not only was Pierre Gasly's second choice for Alpine, which is kind of sad, and it's also kind of sad that he went into Alpine thinking that he was going to get some better cars that you can fight for higher up the grid. But guess what? Now he's stuck in an Alpine, which is arguably slower than the AlphaTauri RB. Which is kind of an L, because he went from the Toro Rosso AlphaTauri, whatever it's called, into a better team, arguably, and now the team is much worse. Back then, let's compare the AlphaTauri to a go-kart. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was just average, or maybe a bit less than average. But now he's in an Alpine, which is literally a tractor. So that was #1 biggest career move L, if we discount pretty much every single one of Alonso's. Pretty much every driver except for Yuki Tsunoda has aspirations to be a world champion, and I don't think that's possible in your Alpine in your current state, when you're driving literally a vehicle that only goes up to 17 miles an hour, and through the corners, 3. Zhou Guanyu is also another driver that is only spoken about when we're talking about his crash in Silverstone. Don't know what he was thinking. You know, cars don't have wheels when you're upside down. So I'd recommend for him to stick to the normal side that car is facing down on. You know, wheels on tarmac, not upside down, because that kind of doesn't make sense. But other than that, he is the most, or one of the most irrelevant drivers on the grid. Never see him around. He's never in the points. He's always, I don't know what he's doing. Sauber have averaged, around a minute pit stop time. I don't know what Zhou's been doing. And honestly, I don't see him being in Formula 1 for much longer, because he's not impressive. He's not showing anything. He's just there. Same with Bottas. That team is just useless in general. Now, Alex Albon threw his career away in 2020, when, let's be real, he was a lot worse than Max Verstappen in equal machinery. And now, yes, they gave you your shot in Williams, which I guess is kind of cool. But with many teams eyeing you up and down like you're walking down a catwalk, surely you look at other teams, not Williams, because they're battling for P10s, constructors-wise, not in the race, because that'll be kind of all right for Williams. And you're the only human that could bring in points to that team, because Logan Sargeant... Listen, the world is more likely to explode tomorrow than for Logan Sargeant to score any decent points. Mercedes apparently contacted you. Red Bull, they are eyeing you up and down. Surely you go for a better team and not stick with the absolute trash cans of Williams. Now, I'm saying that as a Williams fan, but Alex Albon, he deserves so much better than Williams. And so far in 2024, it seems like he's inherited Logan Sargeant's DNA, because he's been in the wall more times than him, which, number one, is impressive. Very impressive. And also, so far this season, he's also better at sealing things than Daniel Ocean, because he did steal Logan Sargeant's car. But honestly, it seems like he's just thrown his career away, because if he wants to ever win a world championship, let's be real, that's not going to be with Williams anytime soon. Because let's be real, when was the last time Williams actually won a race or a championship? Quite a while ago. Now, unfortunately for Yuki, he's smaller than a garden gnome, and he doesn't have any aspirations to win a world championship. But he wants to start up a nice little restaurant, which is kind of cool, because let's be real, you're never going to win a world championship in an AlphaTauri or RB. And do you have the capabilities to even match Max Verstappen, be somewhat close, and be beating him? No, you don't. So in the Red Bull family, you have zero options of winning. And outside of that, I don't see many teams wanting your services, because you see, Yuki Tsunoda's a driver that hangs around in Formula 1 for a couple seasons and then dilly-dallies off because he's not that driver that people expected him to be maybe when they got into Formula 1. He's had a couple years to develop in Formula, and honestly, he's done a good job at being dominated by Pierre Gasly and dominating other teammates in Nick De Vries and Daniel Ricciardo and But with Liam Lawson basically teabagging on you last year, honestly, I'd back my money for Liam Lawson to score more points over the course of the season than Yuki Tsunoda in equal machinery. Daniel Ricciardo, maybe still have some faith that he pulls it back and puts Yuki in his place. A nice little dummy in his mouth, because that's what he needs. He needs to be quiet, because his temper tantrums honestly resemble some of Dudley. In Bahrain, not acceptable for a driver that's meant to be mature. Clearly he isn't mature, so yeah. And if you don't mind me grouping the two Hasses together, because let's be real, Haas is Haas. Nobody cares about them now that Gunther Steiner's gone. Magnussen can't score any points to save his career isn't really under threat, but he can't score any points. He is a brick wall more than he is a good racing driver, and I guess he did kind of help Hulkenberg score good points. But they're both older drivers, never going to win a race, never going to score a podium, never going to win a world championship. They're just there because I guess they enjoy driving the car, which I guess is fair enough. But they're dilly-dallying in last, second to last, battling Alpines. Kind of. But at the end of the day, they're making their bread, and what can I really say when everyone's making their bread and happy in Formula 1? Well, some drivers are happy, some are not. Panta Ricciardo. Hulkenberg and Magnussen, both in their couple final years of Formula 1, well, they're going to be in Haas and scoring very minimal points for those seasons. And nobody really cares about them, so that's that. Magnussen peaked in his first race, and ever since then it's been downhill. And Hulkenberg, he hasn't peaked ever. So yeah. Anyway, with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. In the comments, write down your own roasts because they're funny and I want to kind of hear them. Whilst you're there, subscribe and like. I don't know why you wouldn't. Please help me out. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Have a safe and fantastic rest of your day. And peace.